Hello, how are you? In this video we will see what are the most interesting things that have happened on an airplane. This video is brought to you by the Question Response channel. Thanks to Jeremy Johnston, Vinay Patel, Kush Rai and Gary Kitchen for sharing their views with us. Let's go for Jeremy Johnstone's first answer.
I was on board a United flight from Dubai to IAD and we were sitting at the gate about a half hour past departure with no announcements why we were delayed. All of a sudden a large group of folks boarded, many in military uniform, and filled the rest of the seats in first class. I was a little miffed, but I was tired. It was after midnight, and shortly after a sharply dressed guy in a suit sat down next to me, I fell asleep. Later in the flight as we were eating, the guy next to me struck up a conversation with me. He asked why I was in Dubai and I explained I was one of the co-organizers of a developer hack day in Abu Dhabi. He listened intently and asked a bunch of questions about my background. Then just as I was about to ask him about himself, he hastily excused himself and disappeared to the other side of the bulkhead. The first-class cabin was split in two by a galley. When he returned he had two other folks with him, one man in a military uniform who stood back a bit and another by his side that vaguely reminded me of James Earl Jones in the classic movie, Coming to America. Not sure what was going on and mildly nervous due to the military guy, the guy in the suit asked me to retell what I had just told him to the man standing next to him, which I did in full detail. The man then paused for a second, obviously deep in thought, and I asked who he was. He then looked very embarrassed and said he thought his chief of staff had told me already. Turns out he was the president of a small country in Africa and was traveling to meet with President Obama and then going to NYC to speak at the UN. He wanted to learn everything I knew about doing social good hack days and the organization I had co-founded, Random Hacks of Kindness, in hopes he could foster something like that in his country. I've had many interesting experiences on flights, including meeting a number of celebrities, but that experience definitely tops the list.
We continue with Vinay Patel's answer.
This happens numerous times every morning in Everest mountain flights that take off from Kathmandu, Nepal. After takeoff, within no time I was flying over the highest mountain peaks in the world, Gauri Shankar, Malunksi, Nupsi, busy recording a movie to preserve my overwhelming experience. The air hostess walked up to me and said, "Sir, your turn." Seeing me clueless, she clarified, "Sir, your turn for a view from the cockpit." I had not expected this. Wow. I rushed and stood between the two pilots and one of them kept showing me the major peaks we could see from there. A few seconds later, he points out a black pyramid far out on the horizon and says, "That's Everest." Awesome is a word that's mostly abused, and should rightly be preserved for such an occasion, and that was when I silently whispered it to myself. Edit. One of the pics I took while I was on the flight.
We continue with Kush Rai's answer.
Each time you board a plane and look for your seat, a small part of you is begging to be seated beside someone interesting. After spending hours of flying beside snoring, noisy and boring old people, this time I finally found a skinny girl in her mid-20s seated beside me. For once I was seated with someone who smelled nice, had skinny elbows, and seemed likely to stay up during the flight. As soon as the safety belt sign went off, she took out her brand new, laminated laptop with Windows 8 and started fiddling with it. After hopelessly struggling with it for over 10 minutes, she turned to me. "Excuse me, can you help me out with this?" "Of course, what is it?" Always interested to play around with the then newly released Windows 8. "I am unable to catch Wi-Fi signals on this?" I look at her, with all my shock and horror clearly visible on my face. "We're 30,000 featuring up in the air, how on earth would you get Wi-Fi here?" Less than I know about ATG systems like On Air, but they aren't available in India greater than. But she thought she was wiser, and chose to say something, which almost made me smash my head on her laptop. "But my laptop has airplane mode. Wi-Fi should work in airplanes, no?" I had just hit the rock bottom of tech lowness in my life, and in that flight, I chose to sleep, instead.
The following answer is from Gary Kitchen.
I was on a cross-country flight from Chicago to the West Coast. Chicago's O'Hare Airport was insane that day, with an endless line of planes waiting to take off. We boarded on time, then waited over an hour just to leave the gate. Once out of the gate, we taxied forever, finally arriving at a staging area, miles from the terminal, out in the vast wasteland of O'Hare tarmac. 2 hours later, we hadn't moved, and we were still waiting for our place in line to take off. The pilot kept apologizing, explaining that there were dozens of planes ahead of us also waiting to go. After more than 3 hours of this, the pilot announced, "Believe it or not, we have sat here for so long that we are now low on fuel, and we are going to have to go back to our gate to refuel." The collective groan in the main cabin was deafening. We taxied back to our gate to find that, of course, it was now occupied by another plane. This brought a further announcement from the pilot that we were going to have to sit tight and wait until that plane departed before we could get back into our gate to refuel. Further groans ensued. After waiting another half hour for the gate to clear, to no avail, the pilot came on wit. Access this answer and support the author as a Quora Plus subscriber. Access all answers reserved by Gary Kitchen. For Quora Plus subscribers, access exclusive answers from thousands more participating creators in Quora Plus. Browse ad-free and support creators. Start free trial. Learn more.
This is the end of the video. I hope you have more answers. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it more, you can subscribe and leave a like on this video. We are coming to the end of this video. You can continue the debate on this question in the comments with the community. See you soon.